The mayor has called the meeting to order.
I haven't seen it.
Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Here.
Councilmember De La Cruz.
Here.
Councilmember Gross.
Here.
Mayor Lindsay.
Here.
Councilmember McCormick.
Here.
Councilmember Moss.
Here.
And Councilmember Petros. We do
Here.
have a quorum. Mayor, if we may please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, Mayor, is a discussion on Ultra Music Festival at Virginia Key.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being present. As a point of order, for anyone who would like to make public comment or public statement, please sign up to make a public comment. There are sign-up sheets outside, and we urge that you do that. This is a public discussion on what was what we found out about last Friday about the Ultra Music Festival that is slated to be held at Virginia Key on March 29th through the 31st, I believe, of the upcoming calendar year. We are here to have a general discussion, but please note that we cannot discuss and should not discuss legal strategies at this time. So just a word of caution. And with that, I am going to open public comments. Our first speaker is Robert Vernon.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As your liaison to the Virginia Key Advisory Board, it has been so often a little bit of a frustrating process for all of us that sit up there, mainly due to the fact that the information that comes from the city often comes after the fact. This board was set up and tasked with the duty of looking after the master plan that was passed in 2010. The city has done a wonderful job, all things considered, in listening to our board when we make recommendations to them. Approximately, we're in November now, approximately in August or September at our meeting, at the end of the meeting, another member of the advisory board mentioned that she was at a meeting that morning, and Commissioner Carollo had brought up the possible moving of Ultra to Virginia Key. Immediately, and it's in the minutes, myself, and actually stated, if the city was in any kind of, how far along was this process? Had this process begun? Were you thinking about it? Were you in contract talks? Everything came up negative. Well, we all know 60 days is not enough time to move an event of this magnitude. So all this had been going on. There's no question in my mind. I have no proof of that, but there's no question in my mind. This had been in discussion for a long time. And again, not brought out to the advisory board. And I say advisory board because that's all we are. I mean, we don't vote on anything. We give our recommendation. We've asked them, and they've provided, in most cases, all the upcoming activities that have been slated for the Marine Stadium and the Virginia Key Park. This was nowhere on the radar. And I actually learned of this probably when you all learned about it with that Miami Herald article. So I understand your concern. You should have a big concern. This is an event that draws nearly 200,000 people over a 3-day period. If you put that into perspective, the tennis tournament on its best year had about 250 over a 10-day period, about 25,000 a day. this will generate almost 3 or 4 times that per day. So nobody has seen, from what I understand, the public anyway, any kind of a plan from a traffic, study or a traffic plan, what have you. How are they going to get the people out here? There's certainly no parking for them. I don't know if you've passed by the stadium in the last 2 weeks, but they seem to be digging up part of that asphalt, that $25 million they put in the ground. And I don't know what's that. Our next meeting is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So I won't know any more on this than you do. I know they're voting on this, or at least having a discussion on this on the 15th. I think it would be wise for at least you, Mayor, to be there to express your concerns. I don't think, like you said earlier, this is a time to start yelling lawsuit and all that. I mean, because you don't know anything of what's going on, if it's even a done deal, if it's been voted on, what have you. It's my understanding there's other things scheduled that weekend in the park that you may hear from some people tonight. What's going to happen to them? So I'm glad you're having this meeting. I think it's an extremely important issue. I don't know how this concert pertains to the master plan. I know there's festivals out there all the time. To this magnitude, certainly not. So just be vigilant. I know I will and speak on behalf of the island in our meeting. But I think it would be wise for one of you to start attending these meetings to speak on behalf of the council. And I know we have an election coming up Tuesday, and whoever's sitting up here, and I know they're all the candidates are in the audience tonight, so, and up on the dais, so.
Another candidates forum. Little did they know.
Exactly. So I think it's in our best interest as the village to do whatever we can to have a seat at this table, because the ramifications obviously are grave, and we have to stay on top of this, because this is exactly what I feared when I sat on this board 3 years ago, that we are an advisory board, and in that capacity, all we could do is advise. So we don't have a vote. So, with that, I turn it over to the next speaker, and just please be vigilant, because these things happen, overnight and with no warning at all.
Has there been any communication amongst the advisory board, and obviously under the sunshine, and a call to action to show up at this commission meeting, or has there been absolutely no?
Again, I learned of this Friday afternoon. I immediately sent an email to the city's planning director, who sits on as their representative on the advisory board, to place it on the agenda for our meeting. It's never even been an agenda item for us. You would think something of this magnitude would have come before us before they, are going to go vote on it.
That is your role, to analyze.
Right, correct. That's what we are there for.
Yeah.
And they don't have to listen to us, but at least they should show it to us before it goes forward to the point where it appears to be now. So with that, there has been no communication amongst, I saw one of the, she's in here somewhere, I don't know where she is, but she also sits on the advisory board, and Esther, yeah, there she is. And, but again, I don't know that we can talk, I'm not, it's a sunshine issue, so yes. If she wants to talk in public comment, she can talk in public comment, but, yeah, so just be vigilant and stay on top of them, and at least the best case scenario is show up Thursday, the 15th, and get them to postpone until the advisory board has had the opportunity to look at this and discuss this amongst them and give a recommendation, because we haven't even had that opportunity yet. And it kind of makes the advisory board look silly if there is a board for this very thing and it's not even presented to us. So with that, good night.
Thank you.
Wish you luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Just, Mayor, just a reminder, the advisory board's mission is to ensure compliance with the master plan. That's it.
Correct. That is our task,
Not the deed restriction.
not the deed restriction. No. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mike Davey.
You guys are desperate for attention, aren't you?
Yes.
Mike Davey, 50 Ocean Lane Drive, and, well, here we are. Once again, City of Miami is doing something that's going to impede us potentially. In talking to different people, Commissioner Ken Russell reached out and spoke about what they are trying to do, and was very positive about suggesting that we could have a seat at the table to discuss this further. But the more I've learned, the more it is that they've really moved down the road, and they're sort of advising us that they're going to run us over after the bus is passed. What I would suggest, and I've had people reach out, and I've had people connect me with different people in Brickell and the roads, commissioners on the county board, and they are, look, we're not alone in this, okay? We are not the only people who are not thrilled with this proposal. So my recommendation would be that we are joining forces with these people. We're not going it alone. When we had the boat show and we went at that, we did that on our own. And I think that was a mistake. We've got environmental groups that are going to be against this. And what I think we need to do is form a team. I know that's my shtick, but let's do it. Let's form up with these people in these neighborhoods that are against this. They have told me they don't want this any more than we do. So let's work together. I do agree with the mayor, that the former mayor, Vernon, that we shouldn't be talking lawsuit. I think we're way too preliminary at this point. But let's start getting our forces together. Let's start getting the people who are going to support us together so that we're a team, and we're going in there and we're telling the city of Miami, it's not just Key Biscayne that's upset about this. You've got people all across the county, all across your own city, who are opposed to this happening on Virginia Key. So let's do this. This is an awkward one because as of tomorrow, there are going to be different people who are going to be dedicated to those seats. But whatever we're going to do, let's contemplate that. Let's talk about reaching across the bridge. I think one of the mistakes we have made in the past is we haven't connected with those people in Brickell or the road, Shenandoah, North Grove, and they have similar concerns. So let's do that. Let's work with them. Thanks.
Do you have names that you can give us of people that we need to contact directly?
I do. I'd like to do it offline after I get their approval to give you their name.
Okay.
But I have spoken to people that I'd spoken to in 2016. But I'm happy to, Katie. I'll reach out.
Okay.
And we can talk. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Louisa Conway.
Good evening, Council. I wanted to first of all say thank you very, very much for holding this meeting for the public to have some input. I'm up here just to sort of look to you folks for guidance this evening and what suggestions you might have for us residents that will probably go to the hearing, what you think we should be saying, what is the messaging, what's the tone that you would like from us in Key Biscayne. Are we going to be Key Biscayne nice or Key Biscayne pissed off? So I'm also looking to our village manager, who I'm sure has dealt with these types of issues, some advice that you could give us residents on what we can say at the hearing, because I think messaging is going to be really important, because if they've moved forward, I mean, having some input in the traffic plan is going to become very key for us. So I'd like to at least have some input on that, whatever it takes. So whatever support you need from us, the public, please let us know tonight. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ignacio Segurola.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Emotions are running very high right now. A lot of people have, including myself, have feelings about an event like Ultra and what it will bring to Virginia Key. Unfortunately, I think no matter how I would feel personally about the event, when you get right down to the issue at point, it deals with, and unfortunately this is how I think, it deals with standing. What do we have standing to do? And in my opinion, the core issue is the MOT or the traffic plan. I don't think that arguing what type of event should be allowed at Virginia Key would be to our benefit. What affects us as residents of Key Biscayne is the traffic being cut off from the mainland. There's only one way in and one way out. Whether we're discussing deed restrictions or anything else, what we're really talking about is the traffic plan. Similar to what the speakers that came before me had said, I believe that the best way forward would be maybe a 2 or 3 prong approach. Number one, marshaling as many people as possible to be present at the November 15th meeting to represent Key Biscayne and letting the city of Miami know how we feel about it and how this can negatively affect us. After that, engaging the city of Miami to figure out, as former Mayor Vernon said, the problem is we have no idea what the traffic plan is or will be or what's been discussed. Once we have more information about that, we can decide what the next step is. And the next step, unfortunately, nobody wants it to happen, but we have 5 months to engage the city of Miami, and hopefully it can be resolved peacefully, and we can actually create a partnership for not just Ultra, but the boat show, but we have to also be considering other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Gonzalez.
Good evening. Thank you. I do agree with what many of the folks have already said this evening, but I'm coming here with a different perspective, and it's anecdotal by nature, so it's not supported by any data in this case. But when I first moved to Miami out of New York, I moved into downtown, and we moved in the early February, and I believe at the end of February, March, there was this event that lasted 7 days, because back then they were back to back. And my wife and I, before children, we had to listen to, and we were literally half a block away. We had to listen to this music for 7 days. And we thought it was absolutely, day one, it was a little interesting. Day two, it was frustrating. By day 4, we decided to go out of town for a day. So we left that and we moved over to Brickell Key pretty immediately, and you could still hear the music. And worse than that, the Mandarin would allow people into their hotel. There were no Airbnbs allowed on Brickell Key, but it was full of kids. There were drugs. There were people drunk constantly. And Brickell Key is a very young family-oriented community, very young children. And it was very, very disheartening. And so we lived with that. And right now, when I heard about this and I saw the engagement that people here had, really quickly, trying to motivate, trying to do something about it, I stand behind having lived it 9 years ago and every year. In the last 3 years I've been here, I haven't had to deal with it. So I wanted to provide a perspective. It's not about the inconvenience of traffic and the access to not safety or to emergency vehicles is important, but the issues that happen with drugs, the influence to the young high schoolers that are in the area that will, because it's in proximity, will want to attend or try to be, or perhaps influence, or they're more drug pushers, frankly, on the Key, and it exposes us to something really uncomfortable. So with all that said, we all have the same decision in mind, which is how do we stop it? But we have to be able to think about, maybe it's Chief Press looking at statistics of crime that happened during that time. Maybe it's increased accidents. Maybe it's increased overdoses that Jackson took in. Maybe it's something related to some analysis that we can make. And if it's being very systematic and saying to the community as we all come together, perhaps on November 15th, and provide them the rationale behind why these things shouldn't happen so close to family communities. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the audience again for being here. If you would like to make public comments, please pick up one of these forms and fill it out. We would love to hear from you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ray Casas.
Good evening, Ray Casas with Ray Casas Communications in Brickell Avenue. We're here because Mel Lichtenheld, long-term Key resident, is very concerned, and she talked me into saying we've got to get involved in this thing. So I don't know what you're going to do in terms of organized effort. If you do, we'd like to become involved on a professional basis, but we're here to listen tonight and hear what you're going to say, and hopefully Mel will be able to agree that things are being done. She's very, very concerned. She's talking my ear off all day today about this thing, starting Friday afternoon, so hopefully we'll get somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Diana Perez.
Hi, council members. Thank you for having me tonight. I would like to bring up a point. Behind Marine
I
Stadium.
apologize. Can you state your name and address, please?
Diana Perez. I live in Shenandoah, so I'm way across the pond.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'd like to point out that behind the Marine Stadium resides on the Sadowski Critical Wildlife Area. That's not really much mentioned in the past as a concern. I just want to bring up the environmental hazard that having Ultra would occur on the island. You have manatees returning back into the island. I wasn't around during the days of Jimbo. I know many of you were. Many of you probably went to Jimbo's at some point. Jimbo's kind of halted any environmental progress on the island because you had boats, you had fishing boats coming, you have boaters, you have more garbage on the island. Since the end of Jimbo in 2012, you've seen kind of a restoration on Virginia Key. And with the restoration comes the Sadowski Critical Wildlife. You have manatees returning back to the island. You have dolphins. You have osprey back on the island. There's a bird rookery on the island. So I can only imagine with the noise and the bass, that's basically going to deter any wildlife from returning back to the island. We're going to be in the winter, so birds will be nesting on the island. So I can only imagine that these birds won't return, or they're probably going to leave their nesting sites. So along that, I also want to take into consideration that most of these people attending Ultra are young. And let's bring a flashback to Miami Beach last year with all the garbage on the beach. Now, imagine that back into the Sadowski Critical Wildlife Area, back into Key Biscayne. Eventually, you're going to have all the environmental waste come back on your shores, on your beaches. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So let's think about the environment first, maybe then traffic as well.
Thank you very much. Well said. Thank you.
Does she have statistics that she can give us? Do you have statistics that you can submit to us so that we have this information on numbers of the change since the end of Jimbo and all of these different critters? What was the first one? Frost? Frost and Rasmus. Okay.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Our next speaker is Yosef Kamis. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for holding the meeting. My name is Yusuf Kamis. I present Rapture Festival, which has happened in Virginia Key. It's same dates which Ultra are trying to have Virginia Key. We have few concerns. First, what is this going to leave us as an event? The second thing is we are an environmental friendly event. Our main goal is to promote environment. So far for the past 2 years, we had 0 incidents. Our average age is between 30 to 35. Our main goal and target is to promote environment and to be able to help preserving the park and help creating funds for the park to be able to improve everything inside the park. We choose the location especially because of the connection of nature. Our slogan from the day one was human souls connecting with nature. Our message has been all over the world promoting nature and promoting the environmental causes. We also have a lot of environmental foundations with us. We have the Big Blue and You, we have Ocean Generation. We cut, even our festival, even so it's not a cost efficient, we cut plastics, we had no straws. We motivating everyone that comes to our event to be environmental cautious. And we have, beside the fact that we have concerns regarding what is our future, we have a main concern, which is what is the future of Virginia Key? we fall in love with the location because it's reserved. It's very clean and naturally reserved. So we love this, and we wanted to improve this, and we wanted to show the people of Miami and other people that comes during this specific time, which we have over, I believe, over 500,000 people that visits Miami at this time. We wanted to show them that beside, I'm sorry to say, the madness of Miami and South Beach and Miami Beach, wanted to show them that Miami also have a beautiful side, have a natural side that people actually care for and respect. So, I mean, we have two concerns, and I would like to know if you guys will take this for consideration, and we're willing to do anything to help in that matter. Any help from PR to marketing to even we have a lot of people that's willing to actually come during the hearing and say their opinion. We have a lot of environmental activists with us on board that also willing to be involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
What is the name of your?
Rapture Festival.
Yes.
And we have your contact information.
We have a do you have a website?
Yes, we do have a website, yes.
What's it called?
Rapturefestivals.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Luis Loredo.
Luis Loredo, 201 Crandon Boulevard. Mayor and council members, I was not intending to speak today, but I'm compelled to at least get up to thank you as a resident for 37 years in Key Biscayne for taking the initiative today. I know it was a difficult decision for you because you're painfully aware that you're in a transition. But nevertheless, I think it shows that we are family. Whoever is there in a couple of weeks, we're still part of the same family. And I think that your initiative today, so I'm sure people will criticize you because that's the nature of public service. I, for one, want to thank you for it because whatever else comes out of today, some sort of sense of the council resolution has to come out that there should be unanimity. That if this happens, this is the end of Key Biscayne as we know it. We've been caught up with the Marine Stadium or the boat show and other things, and this is way beyond any scope, and certainly we don't have the time today. If you attended it before, or if you have been in Brickell, and it's ironic and quite this not surprising that they felt that for the citizens of Miami, they should not be bothered, but yet citizens of Key Biscayne should be exposed to this kind I'm trying to find the right word not to offend those who like to go to ultra. We just don't want it here. And I think you should be very clear, keep it simple so that the message is out and the message that you acted very fast so that we don't come to sometimes that we do it late to the table. Second of all, Mayor, and I know you started and the two other people I mentioned, please, please, please keep the words legal and lawsuits out of this discussion. I think that we have traveled that road much too many times, and I don't think we have a lot to show for, and I think we should be very prudent and hope that we can have reasonable discussions with the elected officials of that municipality, the city of Miami, so that we can reach an agreement rather than begin to use the words that some people might use as a threat, which I'm sure that's not what you meant, but so I'm not trying to interpret. So my words today, I want to thank you for your initiative, courageous one, I should add. Second of all, to keep calm, carry on prudently, and we stand behind you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tony Winton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I want to echo Mr. Laredo's comments because you did act quickly and swiftly, and this is a crisis, and it's important to take that first step. What you guys are, in my opinion, this is my field, is communications. I've done a lot of crisis communications, strategic communications. I agree the legal solution is not one that you can pursue quickly. You have about 9 days left before this vote on the 15th. What you're looking for is a strategic campaign. It involves part communication, part lobbying, part reaching out to some of these groups, like our resident who came here from Brickell today with the environmental issue. It's a multi-pronged approach, and really the best thing you can do at the moment is to let your manager take the lead. Let her get the right professional here to organize people. We have lots of people in this room who'll be happy to step up and say, what are we doing? How do we help? How do we connect the message? That's part of it. But basically what you need is a general to run a strategic campaign. And I think that if you can at least, I know you may not have an action on your agenda tonight, but if you at least can informally give her the green light or whatever assurance she needs to start that process, it will tee up the incoming council in a much better step and not lose 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days of messaging in this debate, it could be critical. So that's my recommendation. And again, thank you for scheduling the meeting.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Eric Rottenberg.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Rodenberg. I've been a Key Biscayne resident for over 10 years, and my wife's family's been here for close to 30. I'm concerned like all of you. I have a wife and 3 young children, one at Mass Academy. It's a little too close to home. One thing I would like to bring up based on my field of expertise is that this event is less than 5 months away. I don't know if anyone has worked on large-scale events such as this. This event is a done deal. I think we need to walk into this November meeting and get a really clear understanding very quickly of what is going on or between now and then. These tickets are almost sold out. These hotels are booked. These performers are booked. Unless they're putting this somewhere else that we're not aware of, I would suggest that we need to understand what's going on very quickly, as people are suggesting, but also what is the plan to move it after it already happens. So I just think we need to understand that and consider that. If an event of this scale, look at Super Bowls, US Opens, things of that nature, this is a very large-scale event when it comes to the music industry. I would suggest, and I don't know this for a fact, this is a done deal. This is coming to where we are. And I think we need to understand that, but also maybe come to the reality that that's happening, and what is our plan if that is actually occurring. So again, I don't have facts. I don't have some person down at City Hall telling me this. But based on past experiences of events of this large scale, pardon the pun, but this ship has sailed. So I would come up with 2 action plans as we go into these meetings of getting an understanding of what we need to do and how we need to do that. And to your point, a communication plan and strategic initiative to get the community engaged, but not just Key Biscayne, it's everyone around here. So that would be my comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next speaker is James Samaton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. James Samatero. I live at 850 Harbor Drive. Been on Key Biscayne for 19 years, 3 children at Mass. My wife was born and raised in Key Biscayne. I'm actually an entertainment lawyer by trade. I have sat outside of Ultra the last 3 years, had to close my office the last 2 years just because of the sound checking, where we couldn't even get on a conference call after 4:30 each afternoon because of the volume. A lot of people have made some pretty good comments that I think were worth repeating. And I'm going to try not to just have this be an event session, but this is a critical fight to have. The lack of respect or disrespect that Key Biscayne has suffered at the hands of Miami-Dade County cannot be understated. It's time and time and time again. And as much as, and I think you made the point that we can't just challenge this because of the content of the event. The content of this event, well, it should be content agnostic, and they should have some basic rights for people who live here on the island and have one way in and one way out to their house. The particular format they want to put up is a disaster from a logistics standpoint. Everyone's seen the press. They had a stampede. They had people die. They had a very public and embarrassing sexual assault that occurred in the Metro Miami Rail. This is a time bomb, and it's going to choke the base of our island. And the consequences, whether it's environmental, whether it's going to be a bad influence that our kids are going to see, whether we're going to have a crime element, it's the culmination of events is going to lead to a vast diminution in our property value. It's going to lead to a safety issue. And it's time that we put our foot down. And I hear people say, and I'm a lawyer, so I come at that from this perspective, that lawsuits need to be a last resort. That may be the case, but to Eric's point, who just spoke, time is somewhat of the essence, and if we don't act, you're actually weakening your legal position. If the ultimate objective is to get an injunction or something, if it happens on the 15th, we need to move swiftly, and we need to look at this as our Waterloo. This is the time we put our foot down. We need to rally, and we need to do whatever we can do, whether it's coalition building, whether it's flexing legal muscle, whether it's finally having our voice heard, because our island is under attack. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Spencer Raymond.
Mayor and council members, appreciate the opportunity to speak, and thank you all for being here and for calling this for a quick meeting. I have something quick to say.
I apologize, name and address, please.
I'm sorry, Spencer Raymond, and it's 789 Crandon Boulevard.
Thank you.
I was speaking to one of the organizers. I'm a music fan, and I get it. I get why these people want to come. You know, music's a great thing, and it's a great thing for our community. But, you know, this event being pushed down our throats this quickly is just something that's going to be a disaster. I share the same concerns that it is something that's probably already too late, you know, but I would love to see quick action taken. I was talking to somebody who's involved in organizing this event, and she said, from what I understand, it's happening. And she said, basically, Rickenbacker Causeway will be shut down, you know, just due to traffic between, you know, it starts at 12 in the afternoon, and there's a 4-hour load in and the 4-hour load out that happens at midnight, and that's 8 hours of the day. We're just going to be cut off from the mainland. So it's a huge concern from a safety standpoint. The environmental concerns that I'm hearing are very valid, and it's something we need to take quick action against. And any help that we can provide, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, audience, thank you for being here. If you'd like to add to public comments, I will need you to sign up. I have one last person signed up, and this person is Rosa de la Cámara.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Rosa de la Cámara, 550 Ocean Drive. I am a lifelong Key Biscayne resident. I've lived here for over 50 years, and it's probably the first time I'm in this venue, and certainly the first time I addressed the council, but I was so mortified about the fact that this abhorrent festival is coming to our neighborhood that I could not come. I have some familiarity with the festival. I am pro bono counsel to the Brickell Homeowners Association with 25,000 constituents in Brickell, and to the Downtown Neighbors Association with over 10,000 constituents in the downtown neighborhood. And because of a very strong grassroots effort that they put together, it took 6 years or 7 years to do it. They finally beat, you know, DNA to a pulp and got them out of their backyard. But they had grassroots. They had a lot of owners supporting them, residents supporting them, and they had a Commissioner Russell and Mayor Regalado in Miami who were very in favor. And before that, frankly, Mark Sarnoff from District 2 are the ones who led the fight to ban to ban Ultra from the neighborhood. We have the disfavor of not being constituents. I don't know why they would really give us a whole lot of their time and ear if we don't vote for them. And unfortunately, what counts here is the vote. We do have the benefit of being in District 7 at the county, where we have a wonderful commissioner who represents us, Commissioner Xavier Suarez, and his son, as you all know, is the mayor of the city of Miami. So I don't know why we could not prevail upon our elected representative to the county to assist us with this, and hopefully he can assist us in getting the ear of his son. I also would strongly, strongly urge you not to wait until November 15th. That is far too long to wait for this. This is something we need to jump on immediately. And I agree with one of the speakers earlier. It's probably a done deal, and it's probably too late to do anything this year. So I would ask the commission and the mayor to please task the very able village council to look into this. Is there a contract signed? What is the term of years? What is the termination on the contract? Was there any procedural deficiency with the city approving this? Was the item agended? Are there minutes supporting it? Were the proper government approvals obtained before this very lucrative contract was awarded? So anyways, I think everyone who's in this room and many others who couldn't make it today are here to help. I think you have the grassroots you need. You've got the support you need. I know there's going to be a bit of a change in the players tomorrow up here, but we're here and we're going to stay here. And whatever, I think I speak for the group, whatever we can do as residents to help, please count on us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Drew Panahi.
All right, good evening. Drew Panahi, 445 Grand Bay Drive, number 711. I just want to kind of reiterate some of the same points that a lot of people have made. I guess I was initially somewhat optimistic that there was the Rapture Festival. Maybe that was kind of like blocking the space, and at least we would be protected from Ultra moving into Virginia Key, at least for a year, and hopefully they would find a house somewhere else so that, they could move hopefully far away from here. But when you look at the comments from the city of Miami, such that the Rapture Festival, its contract, they say it's not with the city of Miami, but rather it's with the Virginia Key Beach Trust. And so they're kind of distancing themselves already, I suppose, from their festival. And it does seem like they're quickly kind of moving away from that and having Ultra take its place. I think if you look at the dollars that are involved, and like in the Miami Herald, it discusses a lot of the revenues that are going to the city from hotel reservations and even the direct fee from the Ultra Festival to the city itself for the $2 million. It's not an irrelevant fee, as well as all the kind of ancillary fees that they earn. Like two of the speakers that spoke about it kind of being a kind of late stage decision, I'm not sure that you guys are still in the stage of trying to motivate them or negotiate with them. I realize that the boat show litigation didn't proceed as hoped. It did end up in a 2-2 vote at the city of Miami. But I guess I would view it as a much kind of longer stage battle with them. As soon as you guys get this Ultra show, I do envision that we're going to get a great many other entities wanting to come to that same beautiful space and kind of bother us with their traffic, their trash, their environmental impacts. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please come to the podium. Thank you.
Sorry, I had a command voice, but again, Eric Rodenberg, 201 Crandon Boulevard. I wanted to add one thing that wasn't mentioned. If everyone looks at their calendars and when this event is, that is when Dade County's spring break is ending. Just think about that, okay? So the 29th, 30th, and 31st are when we're ending spring break. And that's but more or less when these dates will happen every year. Could you imagine coming back from spring break with your family and the activities that will be happening, people coming back onto the island? This would be more than a challenging time for us. And I'm not sure that is really thought of from a safety and a concern. And we already talked about the disruption, but it would be maybe even a little bit more than we anticipate. So just something to think about and to consider as we approach this. So thank you.
Thank you. And now, do I have any more public comments? We are closing public comments. Thank you, everyone, for being, and we will continue the discussion. Let me have Frank and then Gary.
Well, we needed to get together tonight because we can't wait. What I wanted to do personally was what Tony said, and another gentleman said the same thing, which is the campaign starts now. Mm-hmm. I think the very fact of having a special meeting the night before an election is a signal of that campaign. The purpose was for us to listen and not to talk about where strategy may take us. I'd like you to know, those who are listening, those who are here, that the things that we're not going to talk about are things that we've talked about for ever, in great depth, substantively, jurisprudentially, procedurally, strategically for a long time. We're, I think, pretty familiar with what we're not going to talk about tonight. I hope you understand what I'm saying or not saying. So there's a lot of advanced thinking and work along the lines of the what ifs. But, you know, my major takeaway right now is I appreciated what Luisa said about developing talking points and tone. I think tone is much on my mind, and my tonal reaction to this is I'm ready to call out our neighbors, the city of Miami, as bad neighbors. Apart from the mess that is Ultra and the discussion that we will be having and articulating by way of talking points for presentation to the commission and otherwise concerning impacts, which are egregious and numerous. And much appreciated the insight about migratory birds, which I hadn't thought of until the speaker from Shenandoah brought that to my mind. Apart from all of that, and apart from the difficulty, possibly approaching impossibility of developing a sensible MOT for this type of event, not the boat show, this type of event, which is a very different thing. I'm pretty well fed up with the way the city of Miami behaves. You know, this is just not responsible government. And we're not going to declare war and invade the city and take it over and occupy it. So what we are going to have to find a way to do, and some of you had alluded to this, is I want to find a way to not have to keep fighting battles, but rather win a war so that there are no more battles. And by that I mean to develop a rapport and a relationship, whether it's structured on some kind of a legal, overarching shared authority for our common jurisdictions or our overlapping jurisdictions, or whether it's done by way of a settlement agreement, or whether it's done by way of an interlocal agreement. I don't want to have to worry about transitory battles being won or lost repeatedly throughout perpetuity. There's too much consequence, too much adverse consequence. It's too brain damaging, it's too distracting, and it could be, and it should be, better and more easily managed if we just had a better relationship. Now, that's easy to say, but those of us who have been sitting up here for a while and who've interacted substantively with the city of Miami would also be quick to point out, let's not get married to the impossible. It's a two-way street in any relationship, and it takes the other side to reciprocate in a positive relationship. The truth of the matter is we've really tried. We've had some reciprocity, but it's either insufficient, incomplete, or insincere. And there's a theory that it might be insincere, although I don't share that theory. But it's not these efforts to develop a better rapport and a more systematically reliable relationship so we don't keep getting surprised by these things has not succeeded despite protracted, serious commitment and effort on our part. It takes two. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Our next speaker is Gary Gross, and then we have Luis Laredo and...
Luis de la Cruz.
What did I just
I'm not Luis Laredo.
Is this a moment of identity theft?
I think so.
It's a girl mustache now.
Well, Gary, please, take it away.
I'm not Luis Laredo either, by the way. I don't know how many of you have actually experienced Ultra firsthand. I have.
Why? You're deaf.
I have, and I want to tell you that no matter how bad you think it is, it's worse. My office was in the SunTrust building downtown when the first Ultra came to Bayfront Park. We didn't know what was coming. We had no idea how to handle it or plan for it. But I will tell you that when the music, and I use that term loosely, started, not only the windows in my office vibrated, the walls literally vibrated. Sitting in my office, you felt like you were inside a bass drum. And no one in the office 2 blocks away from Bayfront Park could work, think, talk on the phone, talk to each other, or anything. So I made the command decision that we needed to get our people to leave, all 158 of them in the downtown Miami office, only to find out that we couldn't get out of the parking garage. The traffic downtown was so terrible that there was no way to exit the parking garage. I went to my car, which was on the 10th floor, and the traffic was so far backed up all the way up to the 10th floor trying to get out of the exit that I couldn't even get out of my parking spot. Nobody else in the office could either. So this is one absolutely horrible, disruptive event. We saw people without tickets breaking through police lines that were trying to make sure that only people with tickets could get into the event. We saw incredible numbers of obviously very drunk and stoned and whatever people stumbling all over the place, throngs and throngs of them. This was the ugliest event I think I've ever seen in my life. And as far as the noise, the only thing I can compare it to is a hand grenade going off. I had some time in the Army with hand grenades, and this is the loudest thing I've heard since I heard my last hand grenade go off. It is something that we just can't, we absolutely cannot allow to have to experience. Unfortunately, I don't think we can file a lawsuit either. We've been down that road. We've spent over $1 million, and while we've made some progress, I don't think we can afford to file a lawsuit before we're damaged. We know what's going to happen. We know we're going to be damaged, but to try to file a lawsuit, and you can weigh in on this if you'd like, Steve, to try to file a lawsuit before we've been damaged, well, that's the way our law works. You got to get hurt before you can do anything about it. So I think we need to try some other mechanism, and I believe from what we've seen tonight, this is a huge environmental issue. Every environmentalist in the state of Florida needs to get down here on the 15th and go to that meeting. This is a huge issue for Brickell. Sound travels across the water. You're not going to know it's not in Bayfront Park. You're going to hear it just like it was in Bayfront Park. And anyone that lives in that surrounding area across the bay is going to have the same problem. They need to get down there and en masse, in force, and try to do something about this. I did have the opportunity to talk to Steve, Chief Press today, and as I thought he would, he was already on this. And he's already been in communication with his counterparts at the Miami-Dade Police Department and also the Miami Police Department. They've given him some input, some assurednesses, and I think it might be helpful if we can hear from him at whatever point you deem proper, because I think he's got some pretty good input. They have, according to Chief Press, they have assured us that we're going to have a seat at the table. They have assured us they're going to listen to our concerns. And the way I understand it is that Dade County is responsible for the traffic. The causeway is Dade County's road. Miami is responsible for anything that happens inside of Virginia Key. Dade County is responsible for the traffic on the causeway. And I think maybe if we could hear from Chief Press, it might help us understand what we think we can rely on.
Fair enough. And we will, let's get some of our comments done, and we will bring him up if he can. Gary, just to your point, City of Miami set the table months ago, and we're still waiting for our invitation. I hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay. Luis, and my apologies, Luis de la Cruz. I don't know what I was thinking.
For the real Luis Laredo, please stand up. Okay, so I wish we had a silver bullet, but we don't. And it is now clear to me what was going on back when we were trying to get our settlement agreement approved by us, by our council, and by the City of Miami. And what happened that day, that it was a 2-2 vote, and one of the council members, I think, commissioners, I think, left the room before it happened. It's now crystal clear to me what was happening. All this was happening back then, which is
April 12th.
Yep.
5 months ago. So, you know.
Talk about behaving in bad faith.
Yes, I think they were definitely not acting in good faith with us when we were litigating, and we have to use that keep it in our mind with respect to what we're doing now. But we also have to be very realistic. March 2019 is right down the street. So I personally believe that we need to focus on the positive and try to work with the City of Miami and with Miami-Dade County in order to get this MOT, and Chief Press will probably speak to that, in a way that will guarantee as much as possible that we can get in and out of our homes, and in particular that our first responders can get in and out of Key Biscayne. That is essential. We need to have input into that MOT. So if we start fighting with them, we're not going to have input. I believe we need to address that more important than anything else. And definitely we need to gather all our environmental groups and the Rapture Festival, which has been around for a few years and never had a problem, and work together with them in order to form a together group to come to the City of Miami next on the 15th and to speak to them and let them know that we are at the end of the road, that we all share and that we all have to use. And Miami-Dade County really is the one that we have to put the most pressure on, because they're the ones that are responsible for allowing us to do this. So, you know, we probably are going to do some freedom of information requests to find out what documents exist and all that, you know, but I really don't want to start down the road of a conflict. I want to do everything we possibly can with our chief and with our manager in order to get as much information from them and to let them know that we have very, very big concerns, and we'll let them know on the 15th. We'll all go there, and as many of us as we possibly can gather, and let them know that we are very, very much focused on this, and that we are willing to help, but they have to help us too, you know. And then we'll see what happens in March, and depending on what happens then, we always have other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment is from Brett.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on a little bit what you guys were saying and where I'm at a little with this, because, you know, first thing, I think, Frank, you hit it with about being a good neighbor. I think that's important. You know, any neighbor that's going to have a party at their house, you should at least talk to the neighbors, let them know. Nothing's been even told to us. It goes to the county. It goes to the newspapers before we even hear of anything. The seat at the table, whether they acted in good faith, bad faith, I think it's very clear to all of us how Miami operates. And I don't think they really care what we're thinking out here. So I'm very skeptical. I always have been with dealing with Miami. I don't know. I mean, there's a couple things in play here. One is, you know, developing a good relationship sounds great, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. I mean, we've been trying to do that for years, and it seems like they're not listening to us at all. And we have time against us. So how do we come up with something we've been working on for 2 years? How do we do that in 15 days? Is beyond me. I think it's impossible. So we have to really put that in front of us, that we're in such short time here. What are we ready to do? Because, you know, getting a seat at the table that probably not going to listen to us, pretend to negotiate with us with no, consideration of really making a deal with us in the end, how many years that might take. So all of this, I think we need to really think about quickly, because I agree. I know it's dramatic, but one of the speakers says we're under attack. I mean, this is really going to affect us. I think we should also, as we're looking out to different parties, we should also talk to the school board and see what they think about next to their high school to have this type of event. We should talk to the county. I don't know where the county sits on this, but it does violate their deed restriction. This is not the boat show. The boat show, you can make an argument. You cannot make an argument on this as a deed restriction. And it'll be very interesting to see how they stand on this. So I think that those two, at least those two, I would get in touch with right away to find out what's going on. Talk to Xavier Suarez right away too, and maybe he may have some influence on the mayor in Miami, his son. But I think this is very important, and really this is going to be a very tough one for us to figure out what to do because there is standing, there's different things that can happen, there's different things in play. But again, I'm just saying that I'm very skeptical of this good relationship that's just going to develop in 2 weeks and we're all going to be happy and we're all have a seat at the table. I really think that's a very low chance that that's going to happen. So let's see where we go. And I thank all of our residents for coming to speak because it's important for us to hear what you guys think. And I think we're probably going to need some more input from you as things develop. Thank you.
Katie and then Allison.
Okay. First of all, thank you all for coming. And secondly, obviously we know the enormity of the challenge we have before us. But I do think we need to start thinking, and we're in a particularly difficult situation because the people up here now are not going to be here in a day, basically. But we are a body, and we need to think collectively as a body what's best for the village and what we as a body can do versus what maybe residents can say. And they may be slightly different, and they can work together. So many of the things we discussed, I think first and foremost as a body, the most important thing for us is to try to preserve access to and from our community and how we go about doing that. Safety is another huge concern. Obviously, it's not coming all the way here, but it may have an overflow and a spillover effect. The environmental concerns are hugely important. They're important not only as a resident, but we need to take note of that. And I think that has a large impact of what does Miami-Dade County think of Virginia Key? What is it meant to be? And maybe we can define that and we can have that as an argument. The other thing is the proximity to the schools that you mentioned. All of these people need to be contacted, we know. Noise pollution. And then when can we, I'm going to ask you, Steve, when can we meet as a new council? Because we're literally having our swearing in at the same day that this commission meeting's happening. And do we need to adjust that? Because I think a whole bunch of us need to be at that meeting. So once this election occurs, let's say on Friday, do we meet up here as this body or as the body of newly elected officials, even though they haven't been sworn in?
Technically, they don't take office for 7 days under our charter. So you're not going to be able to engage with them as council people. That doesn't mean that they're not, they can't be a part of this process, an integral part, and voice their concerns, give their input, and be a part of this entire discussion, together with those council people who will still be on the council and to the extent that they want to participate. So
we may need to do that. We may need to have another meeting as this existing council before they officially become the new council members, with them being part of the discussion. I personally think some of the things we could do is ask our attorney or our manager to start drafting letters, one to the city of Miami, one to Dade County, that we should have ready that states that we officially are not happy with this as a council, as a board. And those need to go to them because we can do a lot of talking, but we need to present these facts to them. So I don't know if you guys would agree that we could get going on some letters. I think we need to make a decision of whether or not we're going to ask the manager to look for a crisis intervention team. And are we going to give her the authority to go and try to hire somebody? And how quickly do we want that decision made? The other thing that I think is really important to queue up for both sides of this is who's going to reach out to these other entities and who's going to form that team. Will it be somebody that we're hiring, or are we going to individually try and do that? So I'd like to have some action steps that we're doing, number one, as a body, and number two, to help people that are coming in a week.
Good.
Agreed. Allison and then me.
I echo everyone's concerns, and I'm not going to reiterate them. I would like to just add a couple of thoughts that I had. One is that I think in addition to actions we take with regard to Ultra, in terms of protecting our own residents, I think it's important that we have our code enforcement folks reach out to all registered Airbnb people with the dates so that they're aware of anyone who's trying to come and rent their property, that they know what the situation is and that they're forewarned. The same with, I mean, the idea that we're not going to have people coming and staying here, I think is naive. Between Coral Reef, the Beach House, Silver Sands, maybe even the Ritz, we have places where you can ride your bike, walk, stumble to or from the concert, right? And that's going to be on our streets with our kids on their bikes and our, crazy drivers. So these are real concerns. I think that it's important that while we work really hard on our messaging for what we want our residents to be saying if they go to the commission meeting, it's also really important that we work on our messaging for communication in terms of self-preservation and safety. In terms of being part of the MOT, obviously I support any efforts we can do to get a seat at that table. I have real concerns though that we haven't heard of it yet. It's 5 months away, something of this scale. The county's probably been working on the MOT. We know the very first boat show that had worked so well, the mountains that they had to move to get people to and from that event with zero parking on Virginia Key, you don't do that in 5 months, right? If there were any possibility of having alternate locations and buses, that stuff should be in place or close to it already. So that definitely concerns me. So I definitely support us trying to, I love the idea of our manager as our general. I really like the idea of getting our messaging together and our actions together and all working together. I would like to also just, on a sort of light and flowery note, amidst all this chaos and concern, this community never ceases to amaze me. I have watched on countless chats in the last day and a half, everybody weighing in concern, but then to come together here tonight in this room and hear so many different perspectives and suggestions and inputs. If ever there is a community that can grassroots and get something done, it's Key Biscayne. So with all of us together, I think we can do something.
For the last 25 years, 27 years, we've lived under the existential threat that City of Miami would somehow shirk their responsibilities and do something that is extremely unneighborly and change the use and of Virginia Key to the detriment of every single resident in Miami-Dade County. Well, this moment is here, and to quote one of our very eloquent residents, it is a Waterloo moment for us because it's not about the boat show and it's not about Ultra. It's about opening the floodgates to development on Virginia Key. That's what it's about. You cannot unring the bell. So we do have to be extremely vigilant, and we do need to take appropriate measures, and we need to be deliberate, we need to be coordinated, we need to be strong. Speaking softly and carrying a big stick is important, especially for our neighbors that are completely undisciplined and insensitive to the needs of everybody else around them. This is outrageous. It is shocking, it is disappointing. We have been working for years to build a good relationship with the City of Miami, and it is for naught. It's for naught. And it is, if that's the case, then we need to protect our residents and we need to protect everyone impacted. I do think, Katie, to your point, we do need steps for today. I think crisis management is absolutely critical. Good communications and getting the word out, making sure that we have talking points that everyone understands. The people know what the facts are, that it's not all, speculation and rumor. We need to put the facts out there, and we need to articulate our position. I think, sending letters, putting our neighbors, all of our neighbors, and the people who represent us and our different stakeholders on notice is absolutely critical as well. I can tell you that it doesn't just impact Key Biscayne, it impacts every single causeway user. Crandon Beach will be impacted forever if the floodgates open. Bill Baggs, which is the 4th most visited park in the state of Florida, the Rosenstiel School, the Miami Seaquarium, if they have to compete with giant events every weekend, they're decimated. And just open access to public parklands will just not be the same. And the environmental impacts are just unspeakable. So let's move forward. Let's come up with a preliminary plan, the first action step, so that we are organized and prepared for November 15th.
Let's take some discrete things that we'll do next away. And I think we should get back together again, maybe Thursday night this week, and be assiduous and timely about this. A couple of things that I would think to do are to start scripting fact-based objections that would include the substantive difference in an MOT for this event as opposed to any other event. I think the mobilizing with the other neighborhood associations on the other side of the bridge, and the environmental groups and Audubon and Sierra Club and the Friends of Virginia Key and et cetera come to mind. There's some obvious allies there. But I also think we should let Ultra know directly that we oppose this. And I think we should let Miami-Dade County know right now, right away, tomorrow, or the next day, or Thursday, that we're looking to them to be proper stewards of their protective restrictions in their deeding instrument, and put them on notice that we're looking to them to stand up. The boat show was different, but this is not the boat show.
Not the boat show.
And we have to engage on the MOT. We will, but let's not drink the Kool-Aid either. So let's be skeptical as we do, and be professional and collaborative and do all the things that we need to do and will do, but with a degree of guarded skepticism coupled with these other actions. And I think we probably should talk about the type of PR and strategic planning, emergency response, if you will, type of professional consulting help that we might look to for this.
And Frank, if I may add, while not engaging in immediate litigation, we need legal representation, and we need to be prepared. We need to know, what steps. We need to have action steps on the legal side as well. We can't wait and, act in hindsight, and we just need to be properly advised and strategic at every point. And that includes, while not engaging in litigation, having the appropriate legal representation so that we are very well advised and we know what we're doing, and we're setting a foundation for any action we may need to take.
Yeah, I mean, we're not ripe to litigate because...
No, we're not,
but remember one thing about it, I don't know that we all see it exactly the same way, but the fact that we were in litigation, apart from the merits and apart from the possibility of prevailing, it made the operator nervous, and increasingly so as time went on, because the ambiguity and threat associated with our claims were disruptive.
Agreed.
Louise first, and then
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
Louise?
ahead. I'll go after.
Yes,
okay.
Katie.
2 thoughts. As far as the letters, I would like everyone's opinion on whether or not we should ask our attorney to draft some letters for us, because he's the one that will be constant with one council to the other. And I don't know if Thursday's early enough. Can you get it done by Thursday?
But isn't there a conflict?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not.
We're not litigating.
These are notification.
And
I think that, yes, happy to start working on something that is both, that's legal in nature, but I also think that there has to be this particular tone set, and what that is and what these letters contain is important. So what I would suggest is that I work with the manager, that we get not only the input that we hear tonight, but input from each of you, to the extent that you leave here and have some thoughts on what you think should be within these communications, that you get them to us as quickly as possible, so that we can try to formulate something for your next meeting that, you know, will hopefully be what you're looking for.
Tell you, I can't think of any issue that we've ever faced that is more critical than this one for the livelihood and of our community.
Right. But the communications are going to be different communications. Yeah. What goes to Miami-Dade County is going to be different than what goes to the city of Miami, which is different than what goes to Ultra.
Those three entities. Is there anyone else we think a letter should go to that we're not?
I think we should reach out to the people who we want to see what they think, like the school board, the Brickell Homeowners
Okay, well,
Association.
that's another element.
I would do the notice letters
That's another
to those
element
three
of
entities.
whatever this
Yes.
action plan is.
Yes.
What my thought is, and without, you know, is the only way to coordinate this is going to be through the manager's office. Okay? We have the infrastructure as a government to be able to do this, okay? And each of you, because of sunshine law and everything else, are not going to be able to individually accomplish this. So we have to use the infrastructure that we have through the manager's office, with my office, and to the extent that you think that we should make that there should be a PR component to this, that the manager needs to pursue that and line those things up so that on Thursday, if you want to take some action, you can do that. You know, and I think there needs to be a lead, that somebody's that's leading in that particular community outreach development PR component of this. We can't do that from here. We don't have the skill to do that.
Agreed.
One other thought that I had as far as legal is, in order to understand where we would be from a legal perspective.
Yes.
Can we call an executive session that would occur once the new council?
I wish we could, but I was reminded that the actual lawsuit that was pending, which would give us the ability to have an executive session, has been dismissed. So there are no privileged legal communications. And I think that that any legal strategy should be discussed privately, not publicly. And that's easy to do amongst the council. I mean, it's not easy, but certainly we have a group of people that we can communicate with, which is you all.
Now, do we also think we need to change the date of the installation ceremony so that we can, or is it going to be in the morning? It wouldn't conflict.
It's in the evening.
It's at night.
It's at night?
Installation
No, not the
meeting.
installation, the commission meeting.
Commission meeting could be all day or all night.
And if they find out we have something that night, they may
I'm
put
pretty
it late.
sure that they're
Now
going
just been moved on the agenda to a time certain of
So
our
how do we want to
inductions.
handle that?
We will,
I think we need to make a decision tomorrow, given if, you know.
first, do you want to have another meeting this week?
Yeah.
Do we think we need to go to this commission meeting, and how many people can attend?
I think we can all go. And I think we need to go, and we need to be coordinated, and we need to be disciplined and messaged. Yes, but we need to go.
We have a conflict right now as we have this ceremony. Go ahead, Louis.
No, I just wanted to make sure that we keep our sights on what we have here. We have a March 2019 threat that is going to happen regardless of all the other things that we do. I think we need to come to that realization. we can write all the letters or put everybody on notice, start looking at lawyers, do everything at the same time. But we do have something happening March 9, 2019. And the most important thing that we need to look at is the traffic that this festival is going to cause for us. I don't know that the music is going to reach here. Maybe it will, but it's not going to be like it was with Gary, which was 2 blocks away. But more important than anything for us is be able to get in and out of our island, okay, and to make sure that our police officers patrol our streets and in Crandon Boulevard, making sure that nobody that's not in the right way is driving their cars around that area. The traffic plan is the most important thing. We need to keep our focus on that because I'm sure that the chief is going to need our direction and what we should be doing.
I see all of this going to that point, and this is us explaining to them that we object.
Correct.
In a letter format, and then we can personally tell them, and then that is our priority. I understand that. But all of these steps need to take place even with that thought and process.
So long as we keep focusing on the most
I have
important thing.
no disagreement.
By the way, as it stands right this minute, they need a 4-member vote at the city of Miami.
That's what their resolution suggests, which I think is probably correct, that they need a 4/5 vote to authorize this agreement or use agreement. I think that's probably part of their charter or their code, but in any event, it's a requirement. So I don't know whether there's 4 of the 5 members who are supportive of this. I think you have to assume that there are.
It's my understanding that they have the votes.
Okay. They have 3 for sure. I don't know, but it's not safe to assume that they don't.
I also feel when we go before the commission, I'm sorry, Gary. Go ahead, you speak.
According to Steve, we need 7 days from the election to the installation. We could move it to Monday, the 13th.
Tuesday, the
12th.
Tuesday, the 12th, right?
Tuesday, the 12th.
And I think
Tuesday, the 13th.
Tuesday, the 13th. What is the Tuesday?
November 2018 is Tuesday, the 13th.
6 and 7, exactly. Tuesday, the 13th.
Monday.
So that would give a 2-day lead time, and I would.
The installation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I would strongly
That's what I'm
suggest
thinking, too.
we do that so that we do have our newly elected council in place that can represent us at that meeting. Is that a problem?
Is it possible to do a
That's true.
swearing
That's
in
true.
before the meeting and then continue and have our formal
Do it there.
ceremonial stuff?
We can swear in there. During public comment.
Steve, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do they physically have to be sworn in, or on the 7th day they're automatically?
They don't have to be physically sworn in. And if they do, they can certainly take an oath wherever
So it
they
doesn't
want,
matter.
including in the back room. I mean, you know.
So it doesn't really matter to have or change the installation
I know that
ceremony.
you have a sort of a formal installation ceremony, but that's not necessary. And to the extent that there's an oath required, which I think there is, that can be given.
There is.
Anywhere.
That can be given at any time, at any place.
But the oath should be public. People should be there to witness that.
But if we don't,
There's a way to do this. Let's just get it done.
Yep.
Let's
Yep.
get the new council in place before the 15th so that we can carry on our business in the correct way, okay? So that's number one. Number two, having dealt with the city of Miami more than I really wanted to over these years, and seeing the way they do things over and over again, while we may not have grounds to file a lawsuit, there's absolutely no question in my mind that if someone dug deeply enough, we could find some procedural mistake they made in getting this thing to the point where it is right now. And I think that we should use whatever means are at our disposal. You see what's going on at the federal level. We can do the same thing at our level.
What's going on at the federal level?
We have a little bit of special counsel stuff going on, trying to uncover facts and things like that.
Yeah, right.
We don't want a special counsel, but I believe that we do have the ability in some form to use a microscope and find out what they've been doing. If in fact this hasn't been discussed at a public meeting, and if in fact they're so unified that this thing is going to happen, then there clearly have been communications going on between those people.
Or very specific, whether waiver of competitive bidding is really appropriate under the circumstances.
There have to be many things that have been done improperly for this to have reached the point that it's reached.
So quietly.
Totally in the dark, no sunshine, totally in the dark. And I think we need to explore this, because if we can find, and I'm not a fatalist, I totally agree that we probably would be foolish to try to file a lawsuit now, but I am not willing to say that we're going to have to deal with this. I think we still need to do everything we can to try to make sure this doesn't happen while we're getting ready for it to happen in case we're not successful.
So
I think it's our duty.
One takeaway from this is that we pursue this oppositional strategy beginning right now, and at the same time, we're going to do the responsible thing in engaging on an MOT. We have to.
How do we go forward with what you're saying to try to expose wrongdoing?
Well, that's a very good question, and not being a private detective, I have no idea what the details of that would be, but I'm sure that there are ways to find things out if we want to find things out.
I'm sure we have residents who are capable.
Absolutely do.
Mr.
Absolutely.
You have the benefit of the public records law. You can get all communications, emails, whatever it may be that have been exchanged. I suspect that if what you think happened, there's going to be a lot of communications.
How quickly can we do that?
Back and forth.
And who do
Quickly.
we deputize?
Yeah,
To
within a day, we can get a records request out. They probably have 10 days to 2 weeks to respond.
And I think, personally, I think we should do that like right away.
I think we should.
Absolutely. And one more comment. Politically speaking, I'm not the least bit concerned about pissing off the city of Miami. I think we really have to work with Dade County on the MOT.
I think so.
And this has nothing to do with Dade County. This has to do strictly with the city of Miami trying to foist this thing upon us after they kicked it out of downtown Miami because of the inconvenience and trouble it was causing down there. So let's just move it out to Key Biscayne. So I'm not concerned about what they think or don't think about us. I think they have not operated in good faith with us all along for years and years. They've delayed us. They've tried to pull the wool over our eyes. They pretended to be nice and want to cooperate, and they've never even intended it for 1 second. So I think that we need to do what we need to do to try to stop this.
Can we start with the Freedom of Information request, like tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing we could do now is interpretation, because the waiver of competitive bidding has 2 predicates, and if they're not satisfied, that's an objection.
It is an objection. If the city's going to act on it, they're going to act on it. And so unless you're prepared to go forward and file some sort of action.
How can we complain about something the city of Miami is doing wrong with respect to competitive bidding? I mean, that's
correct.
We're not citizens.
All of these resident groups.
We're not residents
their
of the city
own residents.
Listen, well, we've all been here. We've all seen, we need to be realistic. I think there is a certain amount of realism here. If the city is committed to do this, they have gotten their city attorney to bless it. They've drafted the legislation, and they're going to move forward with it. And you can raise every little complaint you want and every cute little legal argument you want, unless you're prepared to go forward and bring a suit against them to try to enjoin this, then it's not going to make much difference. Okay.
But this is always strategy and tactics.
Yes.
If you don't take a position, you don't you have no possibility of infusing a chilling effect. If you do take a position, you then have the discretion later to decide what to do about it, one way or the other.
So can I make
Yeah,
a suggestion? Can we
but
discuss
you don't,
these
but you don't need
legal
to
strategies?
broadcast it to have
Correct.
a position. And you don't need to go there and tell them all the things they did wrong and give them the opportunity to fix it the next day. Okay? So it's good to know what the problems are to the extent that you want to act upon them, whether it be for some strategic purpose or whether you want to file a lawsuit.
See, I guess-
But telling them everything that they did wrong doesn't really accomplish much of anything.
Can we discuss this legal strategy, if there is any, individually with students instead of from the
Why don't we stop
I think
talking
that's
about this now?
probably that's the best strategy for all of us.
I'd like to know in the next week, better than I know now, whether it's likely or certain that they have 4 votes to do this.
I heard today that they did.
How do we know that before they vote?
You don't.
You don't, but you.
I heard today that
you
they
develop as educated a guess as you can.
Well, I'll tell you that there are a lot of lobbyists who have been engaged for this.
And there's a by the way, there's a
yeah.
symbiotic relationship between Miami-Dade County and City of Miami. Okay,
Indeed,
I
there
believe
is.
that the lobbyist for Ultra is a son of the mayor of the Miami-Dade County. So, I mean, to think that Miami-Dade County is not involved somehow with the city of Miami in planning all this is not being very realistic.
So a lot of
let's
ideas.
get the freedom of information request. Let's see what there is there. In the meantime, I believe that we should focus on the most important thing, which is the MOT with Chief Press and our manager, so that we can, attack that problem and make sure that we have, the right to input in what they're planning, and maybe we can get our traffic engineers involved and offer help in that situation. I don't think we should talk about litigation anymore right now today. I think that it would be counterproductive. I think that litigation is always available, and in the meantime, we have a new council starting next week, and they will take it over.
Yes, thank you. I think I agreed. I think we may meet at the end of this week, though, depending on what we find out. I think the MOT is short-term the most important thing, but we cannot lose sight of the bigger issues.
Agreed.
So to put that clear.
But let's not talk
Chief
about-
Press, can you please come up and give us an update as what you have found out?
Hello, Mayor, Council, Madam Manager. I've had preliminary discussions with Miami-Dade County Special Ops Bureau personnel who would be working with us and developing the MOT for the causeway. I believe that their sincerity is real. They worked with us the last 3 years as best they could to make changes to the MOT when our suggestions were viable. What this comes down to is not just the county MOT, because the county does make that decision to permit this roadway, and they have to approve an MOT. So that's extremely important that we engage with them in the way that we're going to do, and that their ears are open, and that they do have a respectable response to our suggestions. However, it is also imperative that we engage the Ultra people, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the folks who man the causeway and the folks who work security for this event are paid for by the event itself. Miami-Dade County has no stake in this game when it comes to paying off-duty police officers to work that causeway. So like every other major event, it's going to be incumbent upon us to work closely with Ultra, should they be coming this way, and to see if they're going to respond the same way that the boat show did the first year. And that is to go out of their way to ensure that there is enough of a police response out there, not only in police officers themselves, but in the equipment that's necessary to ensure that that causeway maintains a thoroughfare, that there are no issues with people crossing the causeway by stepping up and paying for French barricades that completely contain that causeway, both outbound and inbound, and things of that nature. So there are multiple phases of this, but without the funding and the support of them to hire enough police representatives, that could turn chaotic. So I would ask that you allow me to engage with my process, which I've already talked to our police officers and our staff also, because this will have a collateral effect on Key Biscayne. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We're going to see people from the concert. Our residents are going to be traveling back and forth and will be engaged in those people who are attending the concert, or not the concert. But I would also suggest that parking, if it's limited, and we have partners out there. There's a lot of parking spaces that are available that may or may not be open to this concert. And those are some of the entities that we might wish to approach to see if we can figure out how to contain that. If there's no place to park, then the event itself has to be creative, such as the boat show has been somewhat in the past, and create what's already been a previously developed MOT. And we should keep that in mind. There are water taxi services out there. There are bus services out there that have already done this for 3 years in a row. And should they decide to engage in some of those, that could be a huge boon and help us in a successful MOT for the causeway.
Chuck, can I ask you a quick question?
Please do.
This is purely speculation on your part, I know.
Yes, sir.
But the boat show had 20 to, I think, a maximum of 25,000 people a day coming out here.
Correct.
This is forecast, if the numbers are right, to be 50, 60, 65,000 people.
More.
No,
you said 200,000.
One day. One day.
About 100,000.
Yeah, but they come to all 3 days.
They come to all 3. They buy so.
All right, so fine. Let's just say it's 100,000. Can you even remotely conceive of how a boat show style MOT could possibly accommodate all those people?
No.
When the boat show was happening, it was a nonstop loop of
correct.
But Gary,
they have resources.
And the boat
How-
show
they
is
have
coming
how
and
could it
going.
even happen? Can you even?
And Gary, the only thing I'm saying is we have to take a look at everything that's out there on the table. With my quick discussions with them, they're very aware of the impact of this. We have to be creative, but we also have to take a look at what has partially worked in the past.
Chief Press, you and I spoke about a dedicated lane that takes you through Key Biscayne for the boat show, and we presented that, and it's not coming to fruition. But this event is of a larger scale. Was that mentioned at all, this idea that maybe we could get a single dedicated lane, and it would be not only for people coming to Key Biscayne, but maybe also assurance for safety emergency response vehicles?
Well, again, that would be the responsible thing to do, and it's possible to do that. However, you're also going to have to involve your partners who may allow or not allow parking, which is somewhat lucrative in these major events. And if they allow for that, then it's going to be very difficult to have these strict traffic lanes that are only for Key Biscayne, and how to engage them from the onset. So the county is already working on this, and we're waiting literally for next week to engage strictly and quickly. But keep in mind that what you all have talked about tonight is true. You need the county right now as your partner more than you do the city of Miami, because they own the road. They are the ones responsible for permitting the MOT.
Okay.
So the county's extremely important to us.
I wanted to bring something up. I think Gary brought up a really good point, is the number of people going in and out. But one thing that he didn't say that I think is extremely important is that this is such a different animal because of the state of mind the people are going to be in is completely different than the people going to the boat show than going to this. So, right, when it was downtown, they were walking to it because they were staying in the hotels. Here, you cannot walk to it. So they're going to have to move people with cars, and people are going to be driving, and they're not going to be in a good state of mind. So the danger level rises, especially when now you're talking about 5, 6, 7 times more people going in and out. I mean, when I went to festivals growing up, they were usually on a farm where people put tents up, so nobody worried about anything. But here, I mean, people are not going to be staying here. They have to move on and off constantly. So I think there's going to be a huge,
I think
huge
some will
liability
stay.
issue.
Some will stay. This is going
Maybe
to.
there will be tents up there. I don't know.
And the village.
I
anywhere
suggested
you
to
can stay
somebody
here.
Woodstock, but I think that's a little too far away
Yeah.
from here. But the reality of it is it is different than the boat show. It brings a entirely different group of people. The dangers are inherent, and law enforcement is aware of that. That's why I say the Ultra has to step up to the plate, which they have in the past as far as the amount of law enforcement they've hired to at least maintain some type of order. There will be disorder with this, no ifs, ands, or buts, no matter what we do, best laid plans. Our job is to mitigate it and make it as least disruptive as possible to our residents here and our first responders going in and out.
Just a quick reminder that the festival downtown had the benefit of Metro Rail. So people could park anywhere down the Metro Rail.
Correct.
And take the Metro Rail, and they were right in front of the festival.
Correct.
There is no Metro Rail to.
No, sir.
So, Miami-Dade needs to do something about not letting these people drive into the Virginia Key. Somehow bring them in buses or whatever. I don't think these people want to be driving much.
We need a dedicated lane.
So if they're offered the bus service, it'll probably work.
You're talking
Well,
about a
that's
lot
why I
of
say you've
buses.
got to incorporate everything, sir. And you also have to hope that we could strike a deal to pretty much eliminate, if possible, whatever ancillary parking areas there are. And that includes the historic neighborhood with all of the parking that goes there. That includes Arthur Lamb Road, which has a tremendous amount of parking available on it. And you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spaces. And they're either going to be VIP spaces and make a lot of money for somebody, or they're going to not be allowed. And that would force mass transit, a lot of Ubers. And a plan to do that and set up the roadways so that they can be contained. They can't just drop off wherever they want. And we could do it in that respect. And we're thinking in those terms.
We could have 60,000 Ubers trying to come to Key Biscayne.
You could have a lot of Ubers, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
that's very
just
real in today's day.
That would be high surge, right? Frank, and then I have a motion.
I'm thinking of one of Brett's favorite bands and suggest maybe the Magic Bus is the answer. The nature of this conversation causes me to remind you of the conversations we had in prep for the boat show, which included the notion that if we were dealing with in-island parking, it was intrinsically a failure before you even start.
Correct.
Because the bringing onto the island of cars is an intractable problem itself.
Right.
That points to the difference between this event and that event, because the solutions for the boat show, I think, do not exist for this type of event.
That's why we have to work with all of our partners on the causeway. There are many that have extra parking available. If we were to secure in some way that there is no parking allowed on the causeway in these extra places, and we were to get that assistance, that would bode well for forcing different avenues of transportation to be used. There's going to be a lot of waterfront transportation one way or another, because you'll see a lot of boats out there just for the show itself. So that will be something that we didn't see in the boat show, because of the fact that they had their boats staged over there. You're going to see a lot of water traffic regardless. for this event.
So
So
like
there's,
what we
there's,
see out
there's a
on
lot
the-
of planning that's going to go into this. It's going to be forthcoming, quick, and hopefully, you know, we do it the right way. And I urge you to talk to your county folks because we need their support when it comes to permitting that MOT.
Chief, could you start thinking a little bit about what this is going to cost us in terms of additional officers on the key during the event? If they ask us for support on the water, I mean, if they have that many, if we think about what
I
happens
can tell you
on a
the water
crowded.
will be something that they're going to ask for. I doubt they're going to ask for our support on the causeway itself. However, that doesn't mean we won't want to engage our people on the causeway. It also means that we're going to have to ensure that our own roadways, especially Crandon Boulevard, is visible highly with law enforcement, our law enforcement. So we'll be doing that. We're trying to develop a plan now on how that's going to affect us, but it's pretty much going to be all hands on deck for us. I did not budget for it, so we'll deal with that in the way we have to deal with it. But we'll have a responsible plan to bring you up.
And Chief, I don't know that we want to get into the habit of subsidizing our safety and your cost every time City of Miami or some vendor wants to do.
I would hope that we would reach out to Ultra and ask them if they
that's
were, again,
unacceptable.
willing partners, as we thought the boat show was when the boat show first got here. And I thought that discussion was
right?
right.
Get
yeah.
it in writing?
This time there'll be no handshakes. Right.
Because I see a real need, just even
It'll
in terms
impact
of our
us.
patrols.
Yes, ma'am.
And the fact that this year, at least, it's over spring break, we're going to have vacant homes and apartments and
Correct.
people staying here. I mean, it's really going to impact us.
No doubt.
Thank you.
Guys, I'd like to move to instruct our manager to put together criteria for crisis management PR services and to start looking for PR vendors that would be able to address this matter. I also move to instruct our attorney to prepare notice letters to City of Miami, Miami-Dade, and Ultra. And do I have a second?
Second on both.
Would anyone,
But
friendly
not-
amendment to add?
Not just limited to, you know, whatever we in our collective discretion think we need to do to communicate as broadly and as effectively as we need to.
Absolutely. Okay. Please call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Opposed? Motion carries.
would you all like to tentatively set a follow-up meeting for Friday of this week?
Is Thursday at 6,
I have a conflict Thursday at 6.
So do I.
I do too.
Friday at 6?
Friday?
I just amended my schedule.
Friday.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm actually traveling to Tallahassee for
That's
beach
right.
money on Friday.
What about,
Aren't we advancing the swearing in of the next council?
To the
But we-
13th?
So what are we,
your,
let them,
do you think, well, then let's authorize the manager to engage a PR firm.
yeah.
I think it's not terribly consequential, but I think we're going to be happier and better served if we get together and have a chance to read and either ratify or edit talking points and strategies so that the time we spend before the 13th is better spent. I think we should meet.
Okay.
I don't know about moving forward with a PR firm yet. Should we push that to the next council coming up?
I think we should wait for the next
Guys, we
council
have
with
14 days. Or no, we have, excuse me, we have 10 days. No, I don't think so.
You listen.
But no vote has been
Wait,
taken
wait.
yet. We don't know if this is
Right. Yeah, there's two aspects of this. If you're trying to defeat the measure at the City of Miami, then I think there is some real urgency to putting together a detailed plan, an action plan. If this is a longer-term plan of sort of protecting the community and how to get out the messages and gather county support and city support, that's a different plan than trying to influence a vote that's going to take on.
But
you're
it's
gonna be
both.
taking on the
I think it
15th.
is both. I think it's a
both.
two-pronged approach, and I think if we're going to the meeting on the 15th, our residents are going to want to know what we're talking, are going to want talking points, are going to want a strategy.
Yes.
Our old council members and our new council members, we need to have a plan in place.
Well, the PR, if we're going to swear in on Monday, if that's possible. Tuesday. Is that the earliest it can happen?
Yeah, that's the earliest because it's 7 days.
Why don't we have a really big party? We can have a swearing in and then meet right after that with the new council. And we'll sit out there as observers and things will move forward.
And have the meeting on Tuesday and they can decide, instead of us keep doing things that somebody else is going to have to live
Well,
with.
listen, we're just trying to tee things up so we don't drop the ball. This is not,
How are we dropping the ball, though?
I have a question on the PR.
But I agree with you.
Is it absolutely necessary to get the a PR firm just to November 15th? Is that what you guys are proposing? Because if it is, we can make that decision now up to November 15th. But I think anything past that should be the new council come together and decide if we need to go past that depending on what happens on November 15th.
I agree that we have if we're looking at this two-pronged, that we could have a very short contract or service with a PR firm to help us with that piece of this. And that's it.
To November 15th.
And that's it.
I agree with
That's
that.
it.
Because we may not need anything or feel like it's appropriate to continue it after.
I think that's a very good idea. And then the next council can decide what to do with.
Madam Manager, is that enough direction? Do we have consensus for that?
Yes.
So as I was listening to the discussion, I took down some notes with regard to the communication strategy. So if I can recap, I think this is going to be our notice to industry, and I'll post something officially tomorrow. But basically what I'm thinking that we need, based on the evaluation criteria, assuming that a work authorization is provided to a communications consultant whose work expires on November 15th, I'd be looking at the qualifications of the firm, 3 references in particular of having done at least 3 comparable incidents in Miami-Dade County in the last 3 years, 1 page, qualifications of project manager, resume, 1 page, an approach and methodology to obtaining the key intended outcomes as observed from the council tonight, 2 pages, and a price proposal. I'll call out that the manager's authorization cannot exceed $10,000. So within those boundaries, I think I'd be able to move forward. I would also suggest that the letters, I'm thinking today's Monday night, crisis communications need to be quickly, so I presume anybody who's interested in competing for the work is watching, and if not, we'll notify folks in the morning. But I suggest that the proposals be due Wednesday, November 11th by 2 p.m. So by that afternoon or Thursday morning, I can have draft letters with regard to the...
November when?
November 7th.
7th, okay.
November 7th,
okay.
2 p.m. And then I think with regard to the key intended outcomes, some of the observations that I have, this is our driveway, right? We do have long-term vision, and there are certain things that we are aware of with regard to the maintenance of the causeway and access in the long run. That's something that's important to us. In the more immediate term, how we can engage stakeholders that support some of the same ideas that we have, and also the idea that we could litigate and likely prevail, although that's not the primary focus at this point. And I think that'll get us through everybody's objective, but I'm happy to take any feedback.
I think that covers it for me. Yep.
I think we need to tell the clerk if we're changing the date. Invitations have already been sent in the mail.
So we can have the swearing in and then the party on Thursday.
Okay.
And the state of the village, which is a chartered requirement.
Wait, say that again?
Although the new manager, the new mayor can.
But I didn't understand what you said.
If we want, we could still have the party, I understand that, but if our agenda item and we all want to be at the commission during the party.
Well, it's going to should be over by now.
No, we don't know, and most likely it probably won't be now.
I'm confused.
Listen, we can do it. Can we change everything to Tuesday?
No.
That would be, I don't understand what the point would be of changing it to Tuesday.
Because we might not be there on Thursday night because we might be still sitting in the chamber, and the new council member should be there in the chamber also. So how are we going to have a swearing in if nobody's there, a ceremony? If we're all stuck down in the commission chamber.
we talked
No,
about
we
the
can
swearing
swear
in
in,
being
but there's
beforehand.
the swearing in part is the
There's-
ceremony, the party, the caterer.
You know, you get married by a justice of the peace, and you have a
I
big
was gonna
party
say, it's
afterwards.
like a marriage.
So we'll have the swearing in.
I understand, but you're going to have
Get married
everybody at the
before you get
party
married.
with none of the people there.
Can we just change the party for Friday?
No, what about you?
The state of the village and a party on Friday.
That's fine. I just think leave everything it is. In my opinion, I'm not on council, but you guys leave everything as it is. We have the swearing in, being there and making a statement. We can do that beforehand. We can say, look, we'll have Ken Russell acknowledge the members of the Key Biscayne council who are there, and then allow us to make statements, or whoever's there, allow them to make statements.
By the way, just so you know the city of Miami process, they take public comment in the morning at the beginning of their agenda.
And at noon, right after
and-
lunch, I think, or something.
No, they take it all in the morning, and that is an opportunity for anybody to speak. They will often, on a controversial matter, also open up comment on the particular item. So it may be that there are two opportunities to speak to this item. I suspect that there will be at the city, both in the morning and then later, either later in the morning or in the afternoon or the evening when the item actually comes up.
Do you have to choose either or can you speak at both?
Actually, it says that it's a PH5, which means public hearing, okay? So there's going to be a opportunity both in the morning and when the item's called. So that may be part of the strategy of who's going to be there, when you're going to speak. But if you're speaking just to get something on the record, you can do that in the morning. There is an opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank you again. Councilor, thank you for that advice. Out of sight, out of mind. I know City of Miami, if you're not there at the time in which the item is being voted in, you wasted your time in the morning. I should be silent and prudent given the fact that there's an election coming up, but I hope that one salient thing comes out of this meeting, that we are absolutely opposed to this thing. And there should be a resolution stating that. The rest of the conversations have been management issues, whether it's legal advice, whether it's what to do. If we do not send a message tonight, political message, which you're elected, so we're elected for him. I have a lot of respect for you as a council and as individuals. We will have made a mistake meeting tonight. We have to come out of here very united. Those of you who are there today, and I said at the beginning that consider me part of that family. I don't care about the swearing in, whether I make it or not. I don't care who the other three commissioners are going to be and the new mayor. We're supposed to think together and forget about these date pressures we put on ourselves. But if you conclude tonight without a resolution, but a lot of talk about mitigating through traffic and other stuff, and we forgot that the reason I'm here is to make sure you heard my voice, that I am adamantly opposed to this thing. This is the single most aggressive assault to our lifestyle, period. In 37 years, and I chair the commission that created us 27 years, this is the single most important challenge to our lifestyle. You have got to state it. You're the legal body that is entrusted by the voters, up to and including tomorrow, and the transition team. So I beg you to pass some sort of resolution that is clear, in plain English, that we oppose this. The details about mitigating is something that our very capable administration and our very capable manager can do below radar. If we keep telegraphing what we're going to do, we're going to be in much more trouble coming between here
I don't think
and
there's
March.
any
But as tonight,
problem.
I repeat and conclude, I hope that you would
Thank
consider
you.
a resolution opposing
Listen,
this thing, period.
I agree. We should resolve.
I don't think that there's any problem with doing a resolution
Is there
that our
some fundamental
council
reason we can't have a
that our
resolution?
council can.
I think that was the intent behind the written communication.
Yeah,
But
that
let's
was
do
the
it.
intent that was going to happen with the letters, but
Notice of
do we need a resolution, or do we want to just send the letters?
Councilman, absolutely you need a resolution. Absolutely you need a resolution. In fact, it's your duty or not to have a resolution. But letters don't have the weight of a
So-
resolution of a full body.
Well, I don't know that we did.
I mean, make it plain and simple, a resolution, the rest of the
Okay,
stuff,
all right.
attach the resolution to
Reese,
the letter
Reese.
or the letter to the resolution.
So-
Okay, so
we
I
have
move,
Do we have consensus, and I guess
Yes.
to instruct our attorney to draft a resolution to attach?
we need a motion, or can we just
I just
acknowledge
moved it, but go
our-
ahead.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So you got.
So
you
your
got
letter
something else
became
to
a
write?
cover letter with a resolution
It
attached.
became a very strongly worded cover letter with a resolution, very strongly worded.
And there's something to
resolution
follow. I can't remember what it is.
Send me the language you'd like to put in it, Luis.
Does that resolution have to be passed again?
I
or
think
that's it?
we are on the same page.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
move to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.